1.4 lines. So say you have a line like this. You also have run, which is the horizontal, and rise, vertical. Your slope is how much you run and rise by each time. Now, every single one of these are the same because your slope is constant. So let's say you've got 2 points, x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2. The equation to find the slope, m, between these 2 points is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. It doesn't really matter which point is which, since you'll get the same slope. Now, this equation only works if x sub 1 does not equal x sub 2, since you would have, if they were equal, the bottom would equal 0 and would be undefined. So what does this equation mean? Once again, m y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. The top part is your rise, since y is your vertical component. The bottom part is your run, since x is your horizontal component. Rise over run. Or the change in y over the change in x, also written as delta y over delta x. So let's practice. Say you had the point 1, 2, and -5, 3. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Plug it in. 2 minus 3 over 1 minus -5. That the top turns into -1 and the bottom turns into 6. Therefore, your slope is -1/6, meaning for every time you go up by -1, you go left or right by 6. And since this is negative, you know that you would go right by 6 for every single time you go up. If it were positive, you would go left by 6 for every single time you go up. Now, to graph something when you're only given the point and the slope, say your point was 1, 1, and your slope was -1. Oops. M equals -1. Here's your graph. One would be right here. Now, if you had a slope of -1, that would mean that you rise -1 for every time you run 1, or vice versa. 1 over -1. It's the same thing. So, say you go up 1, you would go to the left 1, which would be this one. Or, say you go down 1, you would go to the right 1, which would be this one. And you just keep doing that until you can form a line. I mentioned earlier that there are lines where the slope would be undefined. These are called vertical lines. A vertical line looks something like this. In order to find the equation of a vertical line, you find the x-intercept, the point where it crosses the x-axis. So let's say that your x-intercept would be smiley face. The equation for this line would be x equals whatever your x-intercept is. In this case, it would be x equals -1. So what if we're not dealing with a vertical line? What if this is a regular line or a horizontal line? And you're only given a point, xy, and a slope of m. There's something called point slope form, which is a form in which you can just plug in your point and your slope into the equation, and you'll be able to simplify from there. So point slope form looks a little something like this. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Your y sub 1 and your x sub 1 are your points. M is your slope. So say that your points were 1, 2, and your slope was 1/2. Point slope form would look a little something like this. Y minus 2 equals 1/2 times x minus 1. Now from this equation, we can simplify. So y minus 2 equals 1/2 x minus 1/2. And then add 2 to both sides. Y equals 1/2 x plus 3/2. And there you go. You simplified from this to this. And from this, you're able to plug it into your calculator, and it'll be easy to graph. Finding the equation of a horizontal line is much like finding one for a vertical line. Say this is your horizontal line, and let's say y equals smiley face. That is the equation for finding the equation for a horizontal line. Smiley face in this case again would be your y-intercept, where the line crosses the y-axis, right here. So in this case, smiley face is 2. Therefore, your equation is y equals 2. How do you find an equation from only 2 points? Say your points are -1, 3, and 2, 4. What we need for any equation is really just 1 point and a slope. From these 2 points, we can get the slope. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now we plug it in. 3 minus 4 over -1 minus 2. This simplifies to -1 over -3, which is, of course, 1/3. Now that we have m equals 1/3, we can take our points, -1, 3, and 2, 4, and use either one, plug it in to the point slope formula we learned just now. Y equals y sub 1, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Choose either point. I'm going to go with 2, 4. Y minus 4 equals 1/3 times x minus 2. And there you are. If you want to simplify, go ahead and do so. If you were to simplify, then the form where we would get to is called slope-intercept form. So here we go. Y minus 4 equals 1/3 x minus 2/3. Add 4 to each side. Y equals 1/3 x plus 3 1/3. Now that is slope-intercept form. the general form for slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. In this case, m is your slope. B would be your y-intercept. Comes in handy when you're trying to graph it. Now that we know this, say you're given something like 2x minus 3y equals 7, and you're asked to find the slope and the y-intercept. What do? You simplify it and put it into slope-intercept form. So, first things first, we want to isolate the y. So we move 2x over, and we get 3y equals negative 2x plus 7. Then we divide both sides by negative 3, divide each of the 3 components by negative 3. Have to remember that, it's very important. And we're left with y equals 2/3 x minus 7/3. Now we know that 2/3 is the slope and negative 7/3 is the y-intercept. Now there's one more form called the general form. General form goes ax plus by equals c. General form is useful when you have the intercepts or are trying to find the intercepts. So let's say you have the line 2x plus 4y equals 8. Notice that a, b, and c have all been replaced with real numbers, because a, b, and c are all variables in the place of a real number. So then, say we're trying to find the x-intercept. We would replace y with 0. 2x plus 4 times 0 equals 8. Anything times 0 is 0. 2x equals 8. Therefore, divided by 2, x equals 4. And there is your x-intercept. And you would do the same thing to find 2x plus 4y equals 8. Replace x with 0. Anything times 0 is 0. 4y equals 8. Divided by 4, y equals 2. Your y-intercept is 2. So now to graph it. We know from before that your x-intercept was 4 and your y-intercept was 2. So then all you have to do is just draw a straight line. Sorry, I don't have a ruler, but that's supposed to be a straight line through the 2 points, and there, that's how you graph it. Now for parallel lines. Parallel lines are 2 lines in the same plane who never intersect. Like so. Now they are lines, which means that they will always go in one direction and never change. Now, the theorem of parallel lines goes that 2 non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if their slopes are equal and they have different y-intercepts. The phrase if and only if indicates that the 2 portions of this can be switched around. So it could be 2 non-vertical lines have equal slopes and they have different y-intercepts, then they are parallel. Or if 2 non-vertical lines are parallel, then their slopes are equal and they have different y-intercepts. So say that you're given these 2 equations. 2x plus 3y equals 6 and 4x plus 6y equals 0. And you were told to prove that these 2 lines are indeed parallel. So, like the theorem says, they have to have slopes that are the same, but they also have to have different y-intercepts. So, if we would change this into slope-intercept form so that we could see the slope and the intercept easier, so this side would turn into 3y equals negative 2x plus 6, divide both sides by 3, y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. And this side would become 6y equals negative 4x, and you wouldn't plus 0 because plus 0 is nothing. divide both sides by 6, y equals negative 4 over 6x, which is negative 2/3 x. So now, from this, we can see that the slopes are both negative 2/3 and the intercepts are different, and we would have to pretend that there's an invisible plus 0 at the end of this. Now say that you were given one equation, 2x plus y equals 6, and a point, negative 2, 3. And you were told to find the line that goes through negative 2, 3 and is parallel to 2x plus y equals 6. So, first step, isolate the y so we can get it into point slope form. Or, I'm sorry, slope intercept form. There's a lot of them, gotta be careful. Y equals negative 2x plus 6. From this, we know that slope is negative 2. So, if we were to have a new equation, y equals mx plus b, we know that the slope is negative 2, but we don't know the y-intercept. So we plug the points in. 3 equals negative 2 times negative 2 plus b. 3 equals 4 plus b, which means that b equals negative 1. That the equation would be y equals negative 2x minus 1. And from there, it's very easy to put it back into the same form, the general form that the first equation was given to us. So move the 2x over, it turns into 2x plus y equals negative 1. And there you go. When two lines are in the same plane and form a 90-degree angle with each other, they are said to be perpendicular. The theorem for this is, two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if the product, so multiply, of their slopes is negative 1. So this means that if a line has a slope of 2/3, the line that is perpendicular to it would have a slope that is negative 3/2. You would take the fraction, flip it, so the 3 goes from the bottom to the top, 2 goes from top to the bottom, and multiply by negative 1, also called the negative reciprocal. So say you're given a line x plus 3y equals 6, and a point 1, negative 2. In order to find the equation of that point, of the line that goes through this point and is perpendicular to this equation, we would first change this into slope-intercept form. So 3y equals negative x plus 6. Divide both sides by by 3. Y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. So going off of this, the slope of the line that is perpendicular to it would be, flip the fraction, you get 3, multiply it by negative 1, and you get a positive. Therefore, the slope of the line that is perpendicular to this one and goes through this point would be 3. So now we take slope and that point, so it was m equals 3 and 1, negative 2, and we put it into this equation, slope-intercept form, and so it would be negative 2 equals 3 times 1 plus b. Negative 2 equals 3 plus b. b equals negative 5. So your equation becomes y equals 3x minus 5. And this is the equation of the line that goes through 1, negative 2 and is perpendicular to x plus 3y equals 6.